Remember that science experiment you had back in school? The one with the 3 buckets of water of different temperature? No? Your science teacher is really disappointed in you. Shame on you. Alright, let me remind you of that experiment. You have 3 buckets of water. One is iced cold water, one is room temperature water, and one is hot water. Now, if you place your hand in the ice cold water first, and then dip it in the room temperature water, the room temperature water will feel hot. However, if you dip your hand in the hot water first, and then dip it in the room temperature bucket, it will feel cold. See, it's the same bucket, it's the room temperature bucket. But depending on where you dipped your hand first, the temperature will change, or your perception of the temperature will change. So when we judge things, we don't judge them in absolute terms, we judge them in relative terms. That is the contrast effect. And by the way, this doesn't only apply to physical sensations, it also applies to psychological perceptions. So let me give you some examples to illustrate. A real estate agent deliberately takes you to a rundown, shabby-looking house. And you feel like, oh, hell no, I'm not gonna live in that house. Then he takes you for another viewing at an average-looking house that is in okay condition, and suddenly you're impressed. And you're ready to move in. Very sneaky. Contrast effect. A restaurant that serves $70 and $100 wine bottles can add a third $300 wine option to make the $100 price look more reasonable. Contrast effect. To win back his ex-girlfriend, a man hires a guy to take her out on a lousy date and constantly mistreat her, so she realizes what a great boyfriend he was. Contrast effect. Say you're an average-looking girl, and you stand with a group of beautiful, gorgeous supermodels. You will look unattractive by comparison. Sorry, but that's the contrast effect. So my advice is clear. Only befriend ugly people. Okay, that was bad. Let me leave you with the following story. In the early 60s, a girl from a conservative Christian family went away for college, and she wrote the following letter to her parents. Let me read it to you. Dear Mom and Dad, first of all, I would like to apologize for not writing to you sooner. I want to update you on my situation, but before you continue reading, please make sure you are sitting down. I have suffered a skull fracture and concussion when I jumped out of the window to escape from the fire that burned down our dorm. Luckily, Jamal, the janitor on campus, was there to call the fire department and ambulance. He also visited me at the hospital and was kind enough to let me stay at his place since I had nowhere to live. Since then, we have fallen deeply in love and we are planning to get married. We haven't set the exact date yet. We will do it as soon as he finalizes the divorce papers from his previous marriage, but it will be before my pregnancy begins to show. Yes, Mom and Dad, I am pregnant. I have decided to drop out of college to take care of the baby. Jamal is kind, and although not well educated, he is ambitious. He is also a great father of 2. Although he is of a different race and religion than ours, I know you will welcome him into the family with open arms. Now that I have brought you up to date, I want to tell you there was no dorm fire. I did not have a concussion or a skull fracture. I was not in the hospital. I am not pregnant. I am not engaged. There is no Jamal. And I did not drop out of college. However, I got a D in biology and an F in math, and I wanted you to see these marks in proper perspective. Your loving daughter, Mary Jane. Oh, my beard is out again. I just shaved a few hours ago. How much testosterone do I have? Okay. Contrast effect. 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 Yes. Contrast effect. Contrast effect. Contrast effect. One more. Contrast effect. Okay, we're done. Listen. One more. Contrast effect. I hope one of them is good. Cut.